Hey guys, I'm starting a new weekly vlog, even though I'm not really starting it at this moment. I just wanted to show you there's a really beautiful sunset out there right now. And that's why I'm all pink, is because the light is so pink from the sunset. Let me show you. Through our dirty window. Isn't it so pretty? Anyways, bye. Hey, guess what? It's September 1st, Friday. And we just went to physical therapy, which I never end up filming in there. I should have Kev film me in there sometime. But anyways, see the fountain? This is where we normally go to our Mexican food place. It's like right over there. But we're going to Super Burger today. Because it's really fast. And because we went to this Mexican place like the last 2 times we came to Santa Rosa. I'm getting chili cheese fries. What shake did you get? Is it Oreo? Just plain Oreo? Is it mint Oreo? I almost forgot to vlog it because it was so good that I just started eating it. Oh, thank you.
One, he kind of makes some appearances, but I think it's the next one after that where it's really good.
Finished the live stream with Kate and Emma, and now I'm reading Attack on Titan Volume 3. Look at that creepy Titan. Look at that guy. This is my new hairstyle because my hair dryer broke. It is now Saturday, September 2nd. And now we're going to the store. So I'll talk to you when we get back. It's a really nice day again. I just had a live stream with Alana Estelle. So great about hate comments. And we had like 20 people there. It was amazing. Thank you guys so much for coming to that. This is a pretty typical grocery haul for us. Cereal for Kev, oatmeal for me, berries, seaweed, veggies, lots of squash, bananas, peanut butter. Yum. I usually get chicken every couple weeks, like the giant value packs, and then I freeze a bunch of it. Okay, back in the car. Yeah. What a great discussion, guys. I really enjoyed that. We are gonna go watch a UFC football game at Kev's parents' house. So we're hurrying home. We had to end the live stream right at noon Pacific time because the game starts at 3 and we had to go shopping, bring our food home, and then drive to his parents' house. So I think we're gonna be fine. And I had to eat lunch too. It's like the 18th clip of this vlog and I still haven't introduced it. So this 2-week vlog, I'm kind of leaning toward 2-week vlogs, let me know what you guys think of that, is going to be themed of reading a nonfiction book between every fiction book that I read. Finishing anyways. So I really would like to make that a trend in my reading overall, just so that I prioritize nonfiction, because for me nonfiction is like so fun, but it's like a solitary activity because I don't really know any friends who do a lot of readathons for nonfiction. For me, as a personal enrichment project, I need to read more nonfiction. So I've been reading Joan of Arc like every morning, and we had our Joan of Arc by Mark Twain discussion this morning with Emma's book club. That was amazing. I didn't read the Mark Twain book, even though I was hoping to for Legendary Readathon, but I am like at 67% through the Joan of Arc biography. So I've been reading a little bit of that every morning. It's going really well for me. But I also read a short story in the collection Miss Kim Knows by the author Cho Nam-ju. She's the author of Kim Jiyoung, born 1982. So that's a book that's credited with really giving the feminist movement steam in South Korea. It's a book that's like a series of situations that most women will have found themselves in and will recognize. I haven't read that yet, but Crystal from Fiber Artsy reviewed it and like was crying in her review. Like she loved it so much. So that made me really want to read it. So when I saw that this book was available, I just jumped on it. It's her next book and it's a book of short stories. So the first story was so good. It was written from the perspective of like an elderly woman visiting her sister who has Alzheimer's. Her sister is 80, so this woman is like probably in her 70s. It's written from their perspective about like one of their grandsons frequently visits the 80-year-old who has Alzheimer's. And they just really adore this grandson. And this grandson's perspective of the grandmothers, like he really just values them as human beings. Obviously, they just adore him for that. He remembers everything that they did for him and that they raised him. And he just appreciates them and takes care of them and loves them as people. And it's just like such a refreshing story, even though it's really sad because these people are aging and dying, these characters, and becoming very ill, and they can't walk very well. Like, it was really affecting and a really moving start to the collection. So I think there's 8 stories, and I can't wait to continue them. And I only have the book for like 4 more days, but I don't know if I'll be able to finish it right now because I really need to get to work on some other fiction, and I need to finish some nonfiction first. So I might have to put a hold on it again and finish it later. But I just wanted to mention that short story because it was so good. I would highly recommend it. These were my favorite new seasonal food. I ate them all myself. I ate 12.5 ounces of sugar cashews. No regrets. Ah, look at their tree. It's blossoming. It's so pretty.
They get the ball back. That's good.
Yeah, I'm excited. Oh, I need to put some seeds on it. I forgot. I love the friendships in Attack on Titan so much. I love the theme too, that it doesn't mean you're not heroic or brave, even if you're scared. You can be scared and still do heroic and brave things. I mean, anybody would be scared of being eaten alive by a Titan, but these kids are still going out there and fighting. I really love how the friends see value in each other and in their strengths and don't really consider the weaknesses like as a burden. Even somebody who's not the strongest fighter, they consider that he's really smart and he's helped them through all kinds of scrapes, so they trust him for that. I just love that because that's what friends do. When you're feeling down on yourself, your friends remind you of why you're special. I just made a zucchini chicken bake. Woo! There she is. So much cheese. And Kevin and I are just playing Oregon Trail because we're both off today. Hi guys, it's Thursday, September 7th, so it's been a while since I updated you. But I will update you again later. It's just been really busy because my mom's here and we are having breakfast. And I wanted to show you guys because we have pumpkin spice cinnamon rolls. And you know, the healthy stuff. Okay, we ate our delicious breakfast brunch thing and we're about to go get our hair cut. Yeah. I need to see how many inches I need to send to Locks of Love, but this is what I always do just because I'm so lazy. I just cut my hair like once a year and send it to Locks of Love and then just let it grow out for another year, and then sometime usually in the fall I'll come in and cut it off again and send it to Locks of Love. Hi Fiona! Our hairdresser has a donkey and she's so cute. She also has a turtle. the other one's jealous. Oh, such a pretty donkey. Thank you. You're so soft. It looks like she's like on the balance beam, just turning around and around.
Got closer, and it's like, well, it's too much work to do the camping. Let's get just like a little fishing cabin, like an Airbnb.
It seems like the one on the other side's open more than the one on this side. Woo! You're stirring up the dust.
Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna give her a cookie.
And he knows it. Oh, she knows it. What's her name?
Farrah.
Farrah.
Farrah, turn on the faucet.
Farrah, turn on the faucet.
She has to have lots of water. Oh, what happened?
What happened? Oh,
Ooh.
Like it is.
oh, she really liked that.
Have it. And their teeth are like humans, kind of.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, done.
I don't have any more.
I don't think you guys can see him, but there's a hawk on the... Hey guys, okay, it's a little bit later on the 7th, I think it is. That's what I said earlier, yeah. So my mom just dropped me back off home and I decided, okay, today I know that I'm not gonna get all of the work time in that I wanted to get in. So I'm just gonna say, screw it, I'm just not gonna work today. So here we are. That's why I finally have time to vlog, is because I've just said screw it for work today. So that's just the kind of week it was. But regardless, I really needed to vlog, so I'm excited to finally be talking to you guys. So what's been happening? There's been a lot happening. So I finished 3 things, or maybe just 2 things, I don't know. I finished at least 2 things. So I finished, no, 3 things, because volume 3 of Attack on Titan, I finished. I can't wait to discuss it with Tiffany. Wow. And she loved it too, as much as I did. So we're gonna read another one this weekend and we'll chat about it Monday, I think. So there was that. And then there was, oh, I forgot to hold it up for you. I pulled up volume 3 because the cover is just crazy. Yeah, I love all the covers of this. I recommend this series for sure if you're a horror fan or if you're curious about horror, or maybe not even, because neither Tiffany was definitely not like, I'm interested in horror. I was a little bit interested in horror because I think horror often has like really interesting philosophical themes, and it's really fun to analyze sometimes because it's usually examining what we're afraid of, which is fascinating to me because it often involves death. And as we know on this channel, I am fascinated by literature about death. So yeah, there's a lot of situations like this in Attack on Titan where it's terrifying. Titans are eating people. You don't really want to be eaten by a Titan. But yet, if you want your loved ones to not have to fear being eaten by a Titan, that's what somebody who was running away from the front line said in this volume to the troops that were running away. I know you're afraid of the Titans right now and you can leave and not get eaten by a Titan now, but do you want your family having that same fear that you have? Because if you leave right now and you don't fight the Titans, you know, your family is going to know that fear. They're going to know the fear of being eaten by a Titan because they're going to be seeing people eaten by Titans because you didn't protect them from the Titans. So it's just like, wow. Yeah, it's a really intense series, but I love all of the commentary on like friendship and courage, and it's just so good. Definitely in my element here. And another thing that I finished was the Joan of Arc biography by Helen Castor. I'm so proud of myself. Wow. Okay, when we finally got to Joan, it was so effective. I was glad that I spent a lot of time on the early chapters so that I kind of France was split up in like 3 different directions at the time of the 100 Years' War. There was the Armagnacs, and that was who Joan was a part of, was the Armagnacs. And then there was another family that I forget now because they weren't that important. They were just Joan's enemy. The third people who were in power in France was the English, because the English wanted to take over France and they felt like it was their king's divine right to have France as part of England. When the Prince Charles, who was the Dauphin of the King of France, he was the prince to the king, he met with the other power that was French, the other French power. I wish I could, Burgundian, something like that, maybe Burgundian. He invited the leader of the Burgundians to a place of peace and safety, supposedly, and then murdered him. And so everybody considered that to be an act of aggression that they could not ignore. So the Burgundians ended up just saying, okay, we're going to have to go with the lesser of two evils here. We're going to have to go with the English here. So they ended up siding with the English and basically letting the English take control, which is crazy, right? Like they're handing over their country to the English, the country of France. So Joan comes into the picture after this has happened. So there was like 3 capital cities happening in France. And then when the King of England came to France and everybody hailed him as the new king, they set up their capital in a different city. I forget what all the cities were now. One of them was Paris. Paris was one of the options for the capitals. And then Joan's group, the Armagnacs, I'm getting texts, that's what's happening. I'm meeting with Jenny in like an hour, which is why I'm like, I'm not gonna get any work done. I had to get ready for my mom to come, and then she got here, and I've been out with her getting our hair cut, and we just got home. So yeah. Anyways, Jenny and I are gonna hang out tonight, and then tomorrow we're gonna have reading sprints on my channel. I'm so excited. I'll talk more about that in a minute, because there's something else I have to talk about with you guys. Regardless, basically, Joan ends up saying, Charles, the Dauphin, he is the real king, that God wants to be on the crown, which ended up happening eventually. But immediately after people believed her and started listening to her, the French started having victories against the English and the Burgundians. They started having military successes, and it was incredible, literally like miraculous events where cities were just like too intimidated by her and by the soldiers, and they didn't realize the weaknesses of Joan's army because she was so fervent and just like, we just need to go. And people were listening to her, the people loved her. So she was incredible at rallying the troops. I think she was 16 when all this started, and then I think she was 19 when she eventually was she might have been 18 when she was captured by the English. At some point she was captured, and then the English did this really terrible unfair trial where they basically decided that either you're going to be in prison the rest of your life, where she's like basically been raped every time they forced her to put on women's clothes again. It was such a big deal to the English that she was wearing men's clothes. They kept forcing her to wear a dress, and then she would get attacked by men, because it's easier to rape a girl in skirts than a girl in men's clothing. So after she realized that they were not going to protect her, and she was just going to be miserable in prison the rest of her life, she said, nope, I'm not going to betray the voices that God has sent me. Go ahead and burn me, basically. Not that she wanted to be burned. She was really hoping that God would save her from being burned. But he didn't. She was burned. So that was really horrifying to read about. The burning and her whole situation was so intense and sad. It's honestly haunting me. I want to read The Rape of Nanking soon because I just got it from Kurt. Thank you, Kurt. But I think I need a break after reading about Joan of Arc's death, because that was just so haunting and terrifying. So history. I'm interested in history. This was fascinating. I don't know if you could tell, but this was fascinating and I loved it. Thank you so much for the recommendation, Tony and Jennifer. But I do need a little break from the bloody history. That was intense, but I loved it. I'm so glad I ended up reading it. That reminds me, the warts are back. I think because I switched medicines, it's really hard for my body to fight off the virus that causes warts. So yeah, my warts are back. I'm back to getting my fingers frozen off every couple weeks. So yeah, the return of the duct tape. You guys are going to be seeing this, and I know you're going to ask because everybody wants to know why I have duct tape on my fingers. So warts, it's because I'm a witch. Okay, next. I also this week studied Daniel 11 for our Bible study, and this was so cool. So Daniel 11 is like this humongous like prophecy. It's crazy. It's so interesting. He prophesies what the powers are going to be looking like for like hundreds of years after his death. It's fascinating. There's a section that deals with Alexander, specifically Alexander the Great. And I didn't know this, but the ancient historian Josephus records the arrival of Alexander the Great to Jerusalem. And apparently Alexander the Great was shown the book of Daniel by a high priest whom Alexander had previously seen in a vision. All of this is recorded in Josephus, and the Enduring Word commentary on chapter 11 has a whole long excerpt from Josephus' Antiquities of the Jews, book 11, chapter 8. So I read that because I just was like, this is fascinating! So after Alexander sees the high priest that he had a vision of, and then reads about himself in the prophecy in Daniel 11, he was so impressed that he spared Jerusalem and granted it religious toleration. Isn't that the coolest thing ever? Like, wow, so cool. So I know that there are like different thoughts from different interpreters, I guess I would say, like literary critics and stuff, who would say that because these prophecies were so accurate that they must have been written later and not prior. But that's like, it depends on if you believe that prophecy is real or not. But I feel like there are evidences that this is actual genuine prophecy. So I feel like that there's plenty of evidence that it's genuine prophecy. But if you don't believe in prophecy, then you're probably going to date the book of Daniel a little bit later than I would. But that's okay. I mean, that's kind of stuff that academics argue about, honestly. That's not really that important when it comes to faith, but I find it interesting still. Jenny also told me about this channel Centerplace on YouTube that talks, it's like more of like a liberal interpreter of the Bible, and they're also like LGBTQ affirming and stuff like that. So if that's up your alley, check it out. I don't know that it's quite up mine, but I still want to listen because it's good to hear other perspectives, and I want to hear what other people think, and I want to hear what historians are saying about the Bible. I find that really fascinating. So yeah, maybe it is for me just to get a different perspective. I don't know. I've also been listening to Sharon Says So on Instagram, her podcast. So good. I've been listening to a lot of YouTube and a lot of podcasts lately. I need to get back to listening to books, but what have I been listening? Here's Where It Gets Interesting by Sharon McMahon. Yeah, she's great. Her podcasts are so interesting, and she often has other like historians and authors and really people. A lot of it that she writes about is like current events that she's talking about, that she's interviewing people about, is current events. And there's a lot of like Black history interviews that she does. She just did an interview of another person I follow on Jasmine Holmes on Instagram. So yeah, I just love her podcast. I mean, it's always, I feel like it's like very liberal, I think. Maybe not very, but it's definitely more liberal, I think, than I am in a lot of ways. But I love hearing her perspective because she presents things so kindly. I just really have trouble with political commentators who don't treat people respectfully if they believe different things. So when I run across a political commentator who actually treats people respectively regardless of what they believe, I love it. I love it so much. It makes my Enneagram 9 heart so happy. So I actually have been able to stay a little bit more on top of politics lately with Sharon McMahon's Instagram in my life. So thank you to Sharon. Okay, that's enough of that. What's next on the list for things to talk about? I did finish another book. I need to get there eventually. Nothing to Envy. Okay, Nothing to Envy by Barbara Demick. I've been reading this for like, I don't even know, 6 months. It just was hard for me to prioritize it. That's probably too long. It probably hasn't been that long, but it's been hard for me to prioritize it on audio because I really want to read it all physically. It's so good, guys. So good. So this is a journalist kind of asking a bunch of North Korean defectors, like early North Korean defectors, their experience. And so 6 North Koreans over 15 years, a chaotic period that saw the death of Kim Il-sung and the unchallenged rise to power of his son Kim Jong-il, and the really devastating famine that killed off 1/5 of North Korea's population. So that's kind of when it's set. The research that she's done, the interviews that she's done. When was this published? I don't actually know. But it was a National Book Award finalist for a reason. This one really stands out for me. I mean, I pretty much am gripped by every North Korean defector memoir that I read. So that's not surprising. It was published before 2010. It says 2009. I want to go over this in a little more depth with you guys when I can. I'll hold the camera so that you can see the flags while I'm talking about it, so you can read along with me. So this was so good. I followed along with it very well on audiobook but I also really want to physically read it so I can wrap my mind around some of the facts. Like, I remember listening to it on audio, I actually mixed some things up, and as I was rereading it physically, I was like, oh my gosh, I mixed that up. That was wrong. Like, I thought that North Korea had the really good, like, farmland because they were taking off before South Korea, and they were doing better than South Korea. It was like a Spartan economy, but it was pretty impressive. So it seemed to the outside. And so I thought, oh, it must have been that they had the better farmland than South Korea. But that's actually incorrect. South Korea has the richer farmland. I'll definitely be talking more about this. Oh, also, I wanted to mention for the Titans in Attack on Titan, they really remind me of Kolos a little bit in Mistborn. Not because they're actually that similar, but I have a theory about the Titans. I don't know if you guys want spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, skip ahead for like 10 or 15 seconds. Okay, so I think the Titans are all humans. I was theorizing that maybe they were aliens, but I think they are humans, and they have become these Titans through some evil manifest in the human heart. I don't know, because in volume 3 something happens that makes me think that, and I don't want to spoil things too much, so I won't spoil anymore. Okay, what else? I also wanted to tell you, I've been buying some books because I accidentally got a month of Audible. I thought I canceled it, but then Kevin was like, no, they charged us, so I guess I didn't cancel it. So I bought a couple things on Audible and then on ebook because I just saw these are amazing sales. And of course they're North Korean defector things. So I will read them. You know, I'll read them if I buy a North Korean defector. But I've also been listening to some great courses on here because a lot of them are in the Audible Plus catalog. So other things that I bought Someone at a Distance by Dorothy Whipple because that's the only audiobook I've ever seen by Dorothy Whipple. Maybe I can finally read a Dorothy Whipple book, guys, because there's one audiobook of it. If you guys hear of any other audiobooks for her, please send them to me because I want to read her. When I have to read something physically, it's very taxing and it takes me a long time without the help of an audiobook. I also have a bunch of other great courses here, but I haven't bought them all. That was one that I bought. I also bought A River in Darkness by Masaji Ishikawa. I don't know if you can really see this. I don't think you can. But it's a North Korean defector memoir. Yeah, I don't really know that much about it, but I definitely want to check it out. Oh no, that was wrong. It's this dark spot up here. Let me check. Oh, I think maybe I bought the ebook for that in addition to the audiobook because like together they were only like $9 or something, or $7. I was like, wow, the ebook and the audiobook together for like $9. I can't resist that. The other thing that I bought was The Aquariums of Pyongyang, because yeah, that was also on sale. What else have I been reading? I've started Fathers and Sons, and I'm not too far into it because I've been really just kind of struggling to get into it, which is really typical with me and books. I struggle to get into things a lot of times. So I'm working on it because that's like next weekend, not this coming weekend, but I've also been really enjoying The Moon Spinners by Mary Stewart for way too long as well because it's only physical. But I'm really enjoying it every time I pick it up. So how can I even describe this? We're following a English woman, I think, and she has traveled to Greece, and she runs across a situation where a man has been shot and he's hiding out from the authorities of this little Greek town. And she's like, why? I can't resist poking my nose in it because I am that kind of heroine. So I'm really I just enjoy Mary Stewart, I think. Like, it's very readable and fun. If you know of other things like Mary Stewart, please tell me. So Dia recommended this, and somebody else too. I was watching a video, and I don't remember whose video, but they recommended this, and I was like, The Moon Spinners, I love that name. I also started Christie by Catherine Marshall for the Kindred Spirits Book Club, and I love it so far. I got the physical one because I really wanted to try reading it physically, but at this point, I just need to get going. So I started it on audiobook, and I'm enjoying it so much. So this is historical fiction following, it's actually a true story, which I didn't realize, of 19-year-old Christy Huddleston, who left home to teach school in the Smoky Mountains. And it's called, I think, Cutter's Gap. And it's a really rough area. And there's been like murders, and it snows so much that nobody can get around. You dry your clothes by like beating them. Like, it's that rural. Hello, vlog.
Hi. Hello.
Jenny and I have just been chatting about our Victober TBRs. Woo!
Yes. We're so excited.
Yes! You're thinking yours is going up next week, hopefully?
Yes, hopefully.
Do you want to spoil anything? Like, any authors you're thinking about trying?
I want to try The Cloister and the Hearth.
Yes!
I don't know who it's by, but Kate Howe
Mentioned
I
it.
think she's mentioned it before, and I think she's currently reading it, maybe?
I think, yeah, she may have finished it, but I know she loved it, so...
Oh,
Yeah.
That's a good sign then.
Yes.
That's definitely up there for me. Is your TBR out before this vlog?
Oh, it might be. Yes, I think it might be.
I was going to say, you should spoil something.
Yeah, oh, yes, okay. Well, we were just talking about how influenced we are by Kate. That was another topic of conversation. So, Kate is influencing me once again this Victober. And I will be reading multiple things with Kate during Victober.
That's exciting.
Yes. Thanks for saying hi.
Yes. Hi and goodbye.
Hi and goodbye. I'm gonna let Jenny go now because it's like 10:12 where she is. Good night, vlog.
Good night, vlog.
Hey there, guys. It is now Friday, September 8th. And I finished another thing, and I'm gonna finish another thing. Like tonight, I think. I just finished up some reading sprints with Jennifer Brooks. I almost called her Jennifer Sprints. So fun. Just loved hanging out with her. So during the sprints, while I was doing some back stretches, I finished a Great Courses Audible original called Reading Pride and Prejudice in the 21st Century. And I think it was really interesting hearing her perspective of what she thinks made Darcy hot to like a 21st century audience, and how like the actual description of Darcy is not hot. Like, he really needed a fortune to be appealing. So I really enjoyed her kind of spunk. It was like a very modern take though. I appreciated her appreciation of Lizzie. She was really fun, and she like mentioned like the YouTube web series, the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, I think it's called. Like, she's seen so many adaptations, and it was interesting to hear her thoughts. Like, overall, I would say it's generally a positive review. That coming from me, it's a generally positive review. Hopefully I can get in some more Feb Regency preparation, but let's be real, Victober is almost upon us. I'm so influenced by reading sprints, guys. I really am. I made a whole list of things to check out. How I Became a Nun by Cesar Eira. I don't know how you pronounce that. The Seventh Day by Hua Slewfoot. I need to prepare for the Cryptid readathon. Like, I have so much preparation to do. So I got a request to do a Notes on the Underground review. So yeah, I just have so many interesting things that came out of these sprints. Thank you guys for coming to sprints. It's really nice to just like check in with everybody and hear from everybody. So I think I'm gonna film my Victober TBR tomorrow. I'm super excited, but I have to finish some work first because I didn't work that much this weekend. Anyways, I'm rambling, which happens when I get tired. So what I really wanted to talk to you about, aside from obviously finishing Pride and Prejudice in the 21st century, is Nothing to Envy. By the way, I think I forgot to mention, but I am back on Duolingo. Victoria and I just did a buddy quest, a friends quest, and it was so motivating. I wish I was always in a friends quest with Victoria, because if I'm in a quest with Victoria, I will 1000% complete it. I would do anything to hang out with Victoria. So that was a good choice on Duolingo. So I'm actually enjoying Duolingo because I have like a temporary free super Duolingo. But Chelsea from Voyage of a Time Wanderer told me that you can actually use the website of Duolingo and you don't have to be like perfect in order to use it on there because it won't ding you for your mistakes. It's kind of like using Super. So that's really cool, but it doesn't use all the same exercises. Like it doesn't give you speaking exercises on the website, but that's okay. I mean, that's really nice to know. So in the future, when I no longer have Super Duo, I'm gonna use the website. That was a great tip. Thank you, Chelsea. Okay, so back to Nothing to Envy. So first of all, here we have, I'm just gonna kind of read stuff and we're gonna go through it together. This is about Koreans love to indulge their children. And if there was a spare won in the house, they'd give it to their child for a treat. So interesting because women, middle-aged women actually were doing okay. So this book, I think I told you when this book is set. It's in like the 90s is when most of this book is set because that's when most of the North Korean defectors got out, the ones that were interviewed in this book. So in the 90s, when everybody else was starving, like elderly people, young people, men were all starving, middle-aged women were actually doing okay because they naturally have higher body fat and because they often had skills that they could turn into like a hustle. So they would be like selling, in this case, ice cream. It wasn't really ice cream. It was made with like what did she use? She said she used water left over from the making of tofu and she would flavor it with red beans and sugar. Like they had to use everything. So that's how she made ice cream and she would freeze it. And so she knew that would sell because Koreans love to indulge their children. And it's interesting because anybody who had money was doing okay in North Korea at this time because they could buy stuff. It was the people who didn't have money, whose jobs were no longer paying them. Those are the kind of people that starved, and because they just didn't have money to buy food. But the rich weren't starving. It was the people who didn't have money that were starving. The North Korean government offered a variety of explanations, from the patently absurd to the barely plausible. Oh, so when North Korea started having severe food shortages, they love, of course, to blame America. So these were some of the things that were said. Said people were told that the government was stockpiling food to feed the starving South Korean masses on the blessed day of reunification. Because in North Korea, they're told that South Korea, it's like a puppet of the U.S. and the U.S. soldiers rape the South Korean women. They believe that the South Koreans are starving and that North Korea is in a much better place, basically. They basically say that the roles are switched from what they are. But yeah, so anyways, the lies. Some defectors say nobody is believing what the government says, but some defectors do totally believe it. So it just depends on, like, some of the defectors in here did not believe it, and that's why they defected. But some of the defectors in here did believe it. And it was until they were tricked. Like, there's a middle-aged woman who was tricked by her daughter to go to China. And she was tricked into defecting. She had to be unbrainwashed before she would speak to her daughter again, basically. She started watching South Korean dramas and was like, oh my gosh, these people are not suffering and poor. So anyways, fascinating. Okay, Kim Jong-il did not care if he bankrupted the rest of the country. He saw the missiles and nuclear weapons as the only way to maintain power. Yeah, so basically North Korea does not have to be poor. It's because Kim Jong-il is putting all the money into the weapons programs. That's a large reason why they're poor. Also because they don't trade. Like, they're just so closed off from the rest of the world. They can't benefit from what the rest of the world can give them. And whenever they do get aid, then sometimes they'll get food aid and then they end up stealing it and selling it to their people. Kim Jong-il... Okay, so it took Kim Jong-il, though, a really long time to realize that once the Cold War was over, Russia, their patrons, China and Russia, who used to give North Korea all the money, they were now more interested in making money than bankrolling an anachronistic dictator with nuclear ambitions. So it took him a while to realize Russia and China are not just going to be propping us up anymore. And that was really bad timing because it really started falling. So the economy... Oh yeah, this is interesting. The economy of South Korea had edged ahead in the mid-1970s. By the next decade, North Korea had been left in the dust. There was another section here that was really fascinating about basically how they convinced the world that the communist theory was working in North Korea. Kim Il-sung's achievements were not insignificant. In the first 2 decades after the 1945 partition of the peninsula, the North was richer than the capitalist South. Foreign dignitaries gushed over the obviously superior living standards. Like, people were convinced that North Korea was doing really well. It was a point of pride within the communist bloc. Or was it? That communism was actually working. Or was it? So, basically, a lot of it was based on propaganda. The Potemkin village thing was happening even then. Lies were built on lies all the way to the top. So it was in fact conceivable that Kim Il-sung himself didn't know when the economy crashed. So, and for all its rhetoric about juche and self-sufficiency, North Korea was utterly dependent on the kindness of its neighbors, China and Russia. They got subsidized everything. So that's how they were making it. So the military defense budget eats up 25% of the gross national product. So that's where all the money is going. Isn't this fascinating, guys? I don't know if you all find this as fascinating as I do. Oh yeah, this was interesting. The most famous stores in the country were Pyongyang's 2 department stores. Department store number 1 and department store number 2. Clearly there were not a variety of department stores here. It was fascinating hearing about how people with different jobs in North Korea had different levels of understanding of the magnitude of the lies that were happening. Yeah, okay, that's about it for now. I just wanted to kind of give you guys a bit more of the details on this book and why I loved it. I'm hoping that I will be able to review this, but I would first have to actually finish reading the whole thing physically, because I don't think quite enough to talk about. I mean, I just talked for 10 minutes to you guys. I probably do have enough for a review, but I want to make sure I get all my facts straight. So if I can, I'll review this, because it's definitely worth a review. It deserves a review. I would highly recommend this if you're at all interested in North Korea. So the other thing that I'm gonna, I think, finish will be volume 4 of Attack on Titan tonight. Guys, look, the turkeys are up in the tree.
Just stay on.
Can you see them?
All men have something to hide.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm reading volume 4 of Attack on Titan. In the moment when Eren Yeager trades equipment to be practicing the vertical suspension. So amazing. It's such a relief. He's so relieved. Because his whole motivation, his need to kill the Titans is greater than his fear of the Titans. I'm plenty terrified of them, but what's stronger than that is my need to kill them. Every last one of them. No problem. Keep practicing. It was effective for me. I don't read a lot of mysteries, so it was enough for me. I was like interested the whole way through because I was really curious how all of them would end. But I could see how maybe as an experienced mystery reader, Naomi... The quails are here! I haven't seen them in a little while. It's hard to see their little head feathers, the little plumes. So today is Sunday, so Kevin is going to be staining this today. And I just went out on my walk. They got half of the deck stained yesterday, and I just think it's so beautiful. We got, I think, dark walnut was the stain, and it's redwood. So it's just stunning. So it's still drying, as you can see. I didn't realize that stain was like oily. So it has to, this half will have to dry for about 2 weeks before we can paint it one more time. They were going to paint the rest of it so that it could all dry like on the same timeline. But Kevin just got his second call on the bat phone. So Kevin has a phone that we call the bat phone, which, because he's a supervisor and when he's on call especially, if there's an intake, he's a juvenile probation officer. So if a kid gets arrested and the charge is bad enough, he has to drive the kids several hours away to the nearest juvenile hall. That's where he is right now. He was driving all night, and the same thing happened Friday night. He just had no rest this weekend. He was either painting or driving for work, and now his work week has begun again. Poor Kevin. It is so pretty. Our tree is putting out the little pods. It's a mimosa, right, Mom?
Yeah.
Our mimosa tree. Yay.
It was so pretty earlier.
mom got a pumpkin pie latte. I really love how consistently Attack on Titan talks about the different value that different team members are bringing to the attack on the Titans, because they're all so different and the strategy is so interesting. It's just not necessarily things that I would think about. But strategy in this series takes the form of people and what they are good at and ideas that they come up with. I don't know, it's just, it puts like a face to the term military strategy, and I just love it. I never thought I'd be like, yeah, military strategy, that's something I love to read about, but I really do in this scenario. So I need to check out more like history of military strategy and stuff, because I bet I would like it as I get to know the military leaders themselves. Okay, this is fascinating. Titans don't have an intestinal tract. I wasn't sure if it was just the illustrations, like purposefully trying not to show genitalia or whatever, you know, if this is geared towards teenagers, but apparently no, they don't have intestinal tracts and they just puke up bodies after they get full, which is kind of gross, but it's interesting, right? Okay, sorry, I know that this wasn't supposed to just be like an Attack on Titan vlog, but it's so good. It's talking here about like the regret the soldiers have. They worked so hard only to see a bunch of them killed in one battle. And they're just like, was it worth it to have all of these people killed just for this one battle? Like, the trade-off is intense. You're getting like a real sense of why soldiers grieve and what they grieve and how, what they might think about. Obviously, this is not a real world scenario, humans attacking Titans, but I think the ideas are relatable probably for veterans, I would guess. I don't know. It just sounds like something that a veteran would think. Was this war worth it when so many of my comrades were killed in their 20s or whatever? Kev is getting our food. Oh my gosh, you guys. I got a taco salad. Never has a taco salad looked so delicious. Yum! Oh, thank you. Kev gives me all his limes. So Kev got a quesadilla. What kind of meat? Steak? And a chorizo taco. It tastes like a pear. I got carnitas. Hello there guys, it is now Monday, September 18th, so it's time to end this vlog. I successfully made it 2 weeks, although this vlog is so long that I might as well have just cut it in half. But since I was talking so much about Attack on Titan, it just made sense to keep it all as one vlog, so hope you don't mind. But I've had a lot of success alternating my fiction and my nonfiction, and I think I'm gonna continue it. I just love getting to read some nonfiction and just feeling like now that I've made this commitment to myself, I'm gonna keep up. I guess I have a reason to really finish nonfiction, because I have a hard time deciding. I'm just very indecisive. What I want to pick up, what I want to focus on. So I've had a lot of fun. So I finished listening to Luke, but I've been reading along with it physically. And that's going a lot slower, but it's just so good. I recommend Luke highly if you're thinking about trying to read the Bible. That's a great place to start. That's a great place to jump in if it's been a while since you picked up the Bible. Wow, Luke is so good. Every time I sit down and read some of it, I just have like a revelation. So it's so detailed. Anyway, so I did that. I just today finished Washed in Waiting by Leslie Hill, which is the memoir of a gay Christian. He has feelings of attraction toward other men, but he also has been a Christian. He's been walking with Christ his whole life. As long as he's been a homosexual, he's also been a Christian. And he just talks about feeling really stuck in the middle because usually the conversations about homosexuality don't really meet him where he is. So growing up, he was super lonely because he didn't have anybody who he felt would understand him. But gradually over time, he talked about opening up and finding friends who recognized that, you know, this wasn't changing for him. There have been Christians who have been like healed of things that are wrong with them for various things, healing from like what I have. You know, some people have had diseases like what I have and just been touched and healed, and that's amazing. And he said it's the same thing with homosexuality. People have been touched by God and healed, and their lives and their feelings and their emotions were changed. Some homosexuals have been married. He mentioned one couple a gay man who married a Christian woman, and they don't have sex, which is interesting, but they have like a marriage relationship, and she knew that going in, and she accepted that and was fine with that. And I think that helps with the man's loneliness is what he's kind of getting at. So basically Christians who are struggling to remain faithful to God's vision for humanity, despite their brokenness, they've come up with various ways to kind of combat the loneliness. But Wesley Hill's method of combating the loneliness, and it's not a perfect solution, but he said the way I've combated it is finding relationships in the church as a very healing thing. For him, of his loneliness. He still struggles with loneliness, and as the title suggests, he's washed in waiting. So he's waiting. He's still waiting for that loneliness, that ache to be taken care of, basically. But yeah, he's like, I haven't been healed of this, but I'm doing my best to live faithfully. And he talks about how reading certain authors who were Christian and also homosexual has been a real comfort to him. Henry Nouwen, Gerard Manley Hopkins, and W.H. Auden were three authors that he mentioned who were homosexual Christian men who were really striving to remain faithful to God's vision for marriage and for sexual conduct. So yeah, it's such a scriptural book. It's just soaked in scripture, and you can just really tell how he's struggled with this, and he can really speak with a lot of empathy and like precision on this issue. And I definitely am not somebody who can speak with empathy and precision on this issue, but this memoir was mind-blowing. I started it quite a long time ago, but I just was having trouble sitting down and finishing it because I wasn't focusing on nonfiction. But now that I finally am finishing nonfiction, I was able to sit down and finish it, and I'm so glad that I did. It's definitely one of my favorite books of the year, and I'm going to definitely read more books by Christian homosexuals like him because, yeah, he talks about how books on the market and, like, in general, the national discourse is not meeting him where he is. A lot of them are, like, Christians or Christian books talking about what the Bible says about homosexuality, or they are books that are accepting a homosexual relationships as fine, as like acceptable to God, deeming them acceptable. And he was like, I'm not in either of those places. He said, I'm in the middle, striving to stay, faithful to God, but also I have not been healed. So I'm still struggling. It's just a struggle. So yeah, it was fascinating. It was so good. I would highly recommend it. For anybody who wants to like feel what a homosexual Christian who's trying to remain faithful is feeling. He also talks about really wanting Christian leadership who have homosexual feelings to be clear about that. He said there are a lot of Christians like me who are struggling to remain faithful despite homosexual feelings. And he's like, I want you all to be clear about it so that because that's a gift of love, even though it can come with pain if people reject you or misunderstand you. He said, it's really important to be honest about those things so that we can all grow in community and in empathy and in love, and you can have those relationships. He said, there was no way that I could ever combat the loneliness of my life without being honest and opening up myself to relationships with other people. He's done that. He's just a really remarkable man, and it's a remarkable book. So yeah, I would recommend Washed in Waiting. I also finished The Moon Spinners by Mary Stewart. Wow, this was so fun. Kate Howe ironically does not like this book or the other one that's set in Austria following horses in a circus. I can't remember the title of it, but I loved them both. And Kate Howe was like, those are not the best ones in her opinion. So I'm excited to check out more Mary Stewart. I really think that her European settings are a huge reason why I love her books. If they were suddenly like set in America, I probably wouldn't be interested in them anymore. Yeah, it's me. It's my problem, not people who write in America. It's not their problem, it's my problem. Speaking of which, Christie by Catherine Marshall, which I actually DNF'd unfortunately, because not that there's anything wrong with it. I think it's really good. It's historical fiction, but it is really written from a Christian perspective. And I think at this time in my life, I'm not looking for fiction that's written from a Christian perspective. I don't want to like invalidate that, but I really want to be reading from perspectives that I guess are not aligning so closely with mine. I want to read from other perspectives, I guess I would say. So I think it's a timing thing for me. I don't think it's bad at all, but it does read a bit like Christian fiction, which again isn't bad. I think there's some really good Christian fiction out there. Not that I would know, I don't really read it, but classics I enjoy. Classics are a lot of them Christian fiction, but regardless, there was this one amazing quote in here where she's talking about how she's talking with somebody else who has also come to the Smoky Mountains as a ministry, and how they were both ivory tower, type Christians who didn't have to deal with a lot of tragedy and terror in their lives. And coming to minister in the Smoky Mountains to the school children in this community, they said it was like God prying the hands off of their eyes. They were just the little girls with their hands covering their eyes from all the bad things in life. And God was ripping their hands off of their eyes so that they would see what's really out there and what people are suffering. And I really appreciated that because I feel like I also have been very sheltered and blessed with my life. I've been sheltered from a lot of tragedy. But yeah, so this quote was great. It's as if he were saying, I can't use ivory tower followers. They're plaster of Paris. They crumble and fall apart in life's press. So you've got to see life the way it really is before you can do anything about evil. You cannot vanquish it. I can. But in my world, the battle against evil has to be a joint endeavor. You and me. I, God, and you can have the victory every time. Wow, so good, so good. So I'm DNFing that, unfortunately. Again, it's me, not the book. Okay, I also finished Fathers and Sons by Ivan Turgenev, which I would rate, I think, like 80% probably. Like, it was really good. I don't know that it'll stick with me for forever. It's about fathers in Russia being separated from their sons largely by education and westernization. So a lot of the character, it's interesting because Ivan Turgenev was a liberal, but he couldn't agree with the radicals in Russia of the time who were like nihilists and wanted to completely repudiate all the structures and traditionalism of the past. They would just reject anybody who was in an authoritative position as wrong, basically. And the liberals, they wanted to reform the existing people in charge and structures of hierarchy. The liberals wanted to reform them, and that's where Ivan Turgenev was, but he didn't want to completely tear them down and start from new. So really, it's interesting because his main character, Bazarov, is a nihilist and a radical. He wants to tear down the structures in Russia and change everything. So I really found Bazarov a very interesting character, and I felt really drawn to him. And it ends up being kind of like a tragic story of Bazarov. And I think this book made conservatives mad, it made liberals mad, it made radicals mad, it made everybody mad. And Ivan Turgenev ended up living in exile, actually, because nobody liked it at the time of his writing. But it's not a polemic. I think it's written with a lot of empathy, and he was trying to show an array of perspectives of where the intelligentsia in Russia was. So yeah, I enjoyed this, but it didn't feel like super memorable to me. Anyways, I finished that. What else? I feel like I need to stick to 1 week vlogs. 2 week vlogs, it's a little bit hard for me to organize and keep keep smaller. I also finished Attack on Titan Volume 4. So good. I started This Is What It Sounds Like, and that's for Victoria's Book Club, but I'm only like 40% in, and it's definitely making me reflect on like my music profile, the things that I like the most. I really like comforting songs, I like cute things, but I also sometimes really like moody, sad things. And sometimes I just like music that gives me energy. So you can see why I like K-pop. It is moody and cute and energetic. Those are my 3 profiles. So pop is my main profile. Oh, Rings of Power. I just wanted to briefly say I'm obsessed with Rings of Power. It's so good, so good. But anyways, I think that's mainly all I wanted to say. I just wanted to chat. I have not updated you much this week because it's been super busy. I'm planning a lot of readathons and read-alongs at the moment. Rating Project Gutenberg is really coming up quickly here, and I'm so excited. We're doing a Russian theme this year, so yeah, by the time you're seeing this, the vote will probably be over on what the group read is going to be, but I can't wait to find out. What else? I'm planning some other things. I just hung out with Michi from Michi Reviews and Heart of Michi yesterday. Just love her. We're going to meet monthly now. I'm trying to do that with the people that people that I'm not in groups with like very regularly. I'm trying to meet with them monthly, you know? So yeah, I think that's partly why my schedule has been a little bit crazy, because I'm trying to like spend time with everybody that I want to spend time with, and it's just hard. It's like there's so many people out there that I want to hang out with, just like there's so many books out there that I want to read. There's so many languages out there I want to learn. Oh, school started, and I'm in a writing group, and I love it. We're meeting, like, I'm trying to meet them at least twice a month, but we're gonna aim for once a week. That's just probably too much for me. But it's a Korean writing group, so we're writing in Korean. And that's really fun, because talking with learners is really a way that you can practice without having like social anxiety, basically, which is what I need. It's a very like supportive community that also I can learn a lot from. So anyways, that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know down below in the comments if you have any thoughts, or if you want to talk about any of the books I talked about, and I'll talk to you next time. Take